Hey guys, I'm going to be doing a quick Genrethon wrap-up. Genrethon was from April 10th through the 17th. I have a link down below to the 4 lovely ladies who were hosting this readathon. This was my first readathon that I was able to participate in. I've heard of others and I've seen other people do their own readathons, but I've never had the chance to actually be in one, and I thought it was a lot of fun. I had a great time interacting with everybody on Twitter and on Instagram. I was very motivated to keep reading and push myself, and I really tried to make it a point to not only read different genres, but also read genres that were out of my comfort zone, and I managed to do that twice this week. So I really thought I was only going to read 3 books, maybe 4 if I got lucky, and I ended up reading 6. So it was a great reading week. I'm just going to get right into it because I don't want this video to be too long. The first book that I read was And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, and this was a blast to read. It was a very quick read. Again, a lot of different characters, a lot of time that you are spending trying to figure out who it is and what the big reveal will be, and I can honestly say I was not expecting the reveal that I got. I think the last 6 pages or so, I was just transfixed. I couldn't believe what I was reading, and I was just amazed. And I've been recommended to watch the BBC adaptation by 2 different people, so I'm going to get right on that because this was a blast. So that was my first read, and that was my mystery / thriller choice. Another book that I read, I don't know if this was the second book that I read, probably the third. Anyway, I read Animal Farm by George Orwell. This is a classic that probably a lot of people know about, but I'm just going to tell you a little bit. I would probably describe this as kind of a fable. It's about a farm with different animals that they form a rebellion against their master. They run him off and they decide to start their own farm and kind of run it their own way, and it doesn't work out like they expected it would. And this was, I think my Goodreads review of this was short but powerful, and that's exactly what I feel about it. This was about 110 pages, and it was just so much symbolism and so much that you could learn from this. It didn't really end on a happy note, but I think that's what makes it so great, is that even though it's a fable, at the very heart of it, it's very realistic. So I'm really glad that I picked this one up. That was kind of my classic. And then I also picked up John Keats' selected poetry. You can see my notes here. I have a Goodreads review where I list all of my favorite poems from this collection, and what I'll do is I'll look online to see if I can find the different poems, and I'll list them down below. I'm very torn about this collection because I was kind of more interested in certain poems and just not that interested in others. What I did with this collection to help me out a little bit was that there are some really long epic poems that John Keats wrote, and I just listened to them on audio and I got a lot more from them that way. But those weren't my favorite. I didn't get as much out of them as I got of other poems, and I think it's because they have to do with a lot of Greek mythology. I don't know, for some reason I'm not really into that. I prefer his poems on love and nature the most, and so those were the ones that I felt like I got a lot more out of. And so, like I said, I'll list my favorite poems down below so you guys can see the ones that I like. Thinking that I might pick up another poetry collection of his, or maybe just other poetry collections, just because I don't really know a lot about this genre. But it wasn't bad, it just wasn't my favorite. And probably my favorite read of this week was The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. This was my sci-fi / dystopian pick, and I absolutely love this. I think everybody knows the premise of this because I feel like I'm one of the last people to read this, but basically in this dystopian future, women are not able to have children, and so they collect certain women that are able to still have children or have had children in the past, and they become handmaids, and so they're the ones that are kind of chosen for different households to have that couple's babies. The culture is very rigid, and there's just a lot of rules that are now set in place. This was just so interesting and disturbing and heartbreaking and just beautifully written. Our narrator is a handmaid, an anonymous handmaid, because we don't know who she is, and she's telling us her story, but as she's telling us what's going on in the present day and what a handmaid is, you know, what her duties are, what her expectations are, she's also having flashbacks to her old life when she had her own family, and she's haunted by this past. I was thinking about this probably all day after I read it, and I still think about it. Definitely a book that I want on my shelves. I cannot wait to get my own copy. And then I thought I would really challenge myself and read a romance novel, and that was Once Upon a Marquess by, hold on, I read it on my Kindle. I'm trying to see who the author was. Courtney Milan. And I'll have a picture of it here so you guys can see exactly what I was dealing with. This is something that I would never pick up on a shelf, and that's exactly why I picked it. And I try to go in with an open mind, and kind of, I don't really want to criticize it for being what it's not ever going to be, so I'm just gonna try to share my thoughts and be as fair to it as possible, because you kind of know what you're getting into when you read these. This is a story of a woman named Judith who was in a wealthy family, but then her father was deemed to be a traitor along with her brother, and so her family kind of fell from the social graces, and now she is living as a poor woman with her younger brother and her younger sister. She also has a younger sister that left the family right when the trial ended, and so they've been apart for the past 8 years. And when she was wealthy, she met this man named Christian, and they had like a young budding romance, but it was cut short because Christian was the one that pretty much sold out her father and her brother. So they have kind of that clashing where she hates him and he understands why she hates him. So it's just one of those, we're not supposed to be together, but we love each other and there's a connection, and we just can't keep ourselves from falling into our old feelings. It was just one of those stories. There was also that mystery of, is her brother dead because he was sent to prison and we don't know what happened to him? What happened to her other sister when she left, because she can't find her and she hasn't been in contact with her for 8 years? And this other mystery that's going on as well that Christian is helping Judith with. So now that they're coming back into contact, things start to happen. This was a very quick read. That's one of the positive things about it, is that it was very fast paced, brain candy, not a lot of thought involved. It's just fluffy reads. And it was a nice break from the other books that I'd read. But if I have to be really, really honest, there was a lot in this book that annoyed me. Christian, the main love interest, is supposed to be somebody who has makes everything a joke. He can't be serious for anything, and he's just annoyed me. By the halfway through the book, I was just like, shut up, Christian. You don't have to make a joke of everything. You're annoying me, you're annoying Judith, you're annoying everybody around you. Judith, I liked that she was hardworking and, dedicated to her family and willing to provide for her family, and I respected her hustle, but I also could not get past the way she talks to other people. I think really what makes or break a romance novel, in my opinion, is the dialogue and kind of the situations that the characters are put in and how they react in those situations. And in this book, it almost felt like, because this book is supposed to be set in the 1860s or something like that, and so the dialogue didn't really feel like it was in the 1860s, and that kind of threw me off sometimes. It was just not working for me. And then after all that, I thought to myself, well, this is the type of, dialogue and, plot devices that are common in this genre, so let me not be too judgmental. And then we get to the ending, and I just, no. This ending was a big fat no. I hated this ending. The first 200 and something pages, you're developing this plot, this story, and you're just gonna wrap it up in a couple pages. It's gonna feel wrong. So that's what happened, and then it ends on a cliffhanger, instead of, well, I guess I should have expected that because this is a book in a series, but still, the cliffhanger was also very abrupt and sudden, and it came after the epilogue for some reason. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, I'm glad that I gave it a chance. I'm glad that I tried. I'm not giving up on the romance genre. I'm sure it's such a big genre that I'm sure there's something in it for me. I think that these light, fluffy books are sometimes good to read just to break up the monotony a little bit and just kind of give your brain a rest, because sometimes we read some really tough, dark books, or at least I do, and they're kind of draining, and that's when you kind of fall into the reading slumps or the book hangovers. And so we'll see what I'll do in the future, but overall I had a great reading week. I loved Genrethon. I love the concept of reading different genres and pushing yourself to read genres that you usually don't. because I do read different genres, but I can tell you that I don't have a romance novel in my TBR, so you know, this was definitely a good chance to branch out a little bit. I would really like to participate in more readathons throughout the year. Hopefully, with my schedule, I can work something in, because I think half the fun is interacting and responding, commenting, replying to our questions, and learning about what everybody else thinks and what everybody else is doing and supporting each other. That's what I love the most about it. So hopefully I can participate in more in the future. And yeah, so that was my reading week. I hope everybody had a great reading week. And let me know if you participated in Genrethon and how it was for you, what books you read, what you thought about them. I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video.